Jin-Ah stepped from her sleek black ship onto Earth's soil for the first time. The night air felt cool against her gray-blue skin. She stood taller than most humans would, her body lean and strong from years of combat training. Her eyes, completely black with tiny silver dots like stars, scanned the forest clearing where she had landed. Scan complete. Human settlement located 2 kilometers north, her wrist device announced in the Valfori language. Jin-Ah nodded and tapped a button on her armor, activating its camouflage function. The black material shifted colors to match the trees and shadows around her. No human technology could detect her now. She moved through the forest with practiced silence. Each step was careful and precise. The planet seemed peaceful enough, but Jin-Ah never lowered her guard. As the top cosmic executioner of the Valfori Empire, she had hunted criminals across 17 different planets. Earth was just another mission. Her target was a Valfori scientist named Hyun, who had stolen important research and fled to this backwater planet. The information in Hyun's head could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Jin-Ah's orders were simple: find Hyun and eliminate him. As she approached the edge of the forest, Jin-Ah saw lights from a small town. It looked primitive compared to Valfori cities. Simple buildings, wheeled vehicles, and such basic technology. Yet these humans had somehow developed space travel and communication systems that had detected Valfori signals. It made no sense to her. How could such weak creatures achieve so much? She wondered. Humans had no natural armor, no significant strength, and lived such short lives. The Valfori Empire considered them barely worth noticing. Until recently. Jin-Ah's tracking device beeped softly. Hyun was somewhere in this town. She would need to blend in to get closer. She tapped her armor again, and it transformed into clothing similar to what she had seen in Earth broadcasts. Simple black pants and a jacket. She couldn't change her skin color completely, but her armor created a thin film over her exposed skin that made her look more human-like. Still unusual, but perhaps humans would think she was from some distant Earth country rather than another planet. Jin-Ah entered the town, walking on the empty sidewalks. Her steps were too even, too measured, and she forced herself to adopt a more casual stride. It was late, and few humans were outside. This would make her search easier. Her tracker led her to a small building with a dome on top. A sign read Community Observatory. Jin-Ah's translator suggested this was a place for studying stars. Perfect for Hyun to hide. He could monitor space from here. As she approached the building, the door opened. Jin-Ah froze, her hand moving to the weapon hidden in her jacket. A human man stepped out. He was of average height, with dark hair and simple clothes. He carried several books and a small bag. He noticed Jin-Ah immediately and stopped. "Hello there," he said, his voice calm. Jin-Ah didn't respond. Her translator was working, but she hadn't expected direct contact so soon. The man tilted his head. "Are you here for the late-night observation session? I'm afraid you missed it. We closed about an hour ago." Jin-Ah analyzed his speech patterns and copied them. "No, I am just passing by." The man nodded but looked at her with curiosity. "I don't recall seeing you in town before. I'm Ta-min, the astronomy professor here." "Jin-Ah," she replied, using her real name since it sounded similar to human names she had studied. "That's a beautiful name," Ta-min said. "You're not from around here, I take it." Before Jin-Ah could answer, her wrist device vibrated urgently. Something was wrong with her ship. The stealth systems were failing, which meant Earth's detection systems might find it soon. "I must go," she said abruptly. Ta-min seemed concerned. "Is everything all right? Do you need help finding somewhere to stay? There's only one hotel in town, and they close the front desk at 9. Jin-Ah checked her ship's status again. The damage was worse than she thought. The ship needed at least 3 Earth days to self-repair. She couldn't return to it until then. "I will find a place," she said stiffly. At that moment, rain began to fall. Heavy drops splashed on Jinnah's face, and she flinched. On her home planet, rain was acidic and dangerous. Ta Min opened his umbrella. "Here, this will keep you dry. Listen, I have a spare room in my house just down the road. You can stay there tonight if you need a place. No questions asked." Jinnah was confused by this offer. In Valfori culture, no one helped strangers without expecting something in return. What did this human want? "Why would you help me?" she asked directly. Ta Min shrugged. "Because you need it. That's reason enough." As the rain fell harder, Jinnah weighed her options. She needed shelter, and being close to a local might help her blend in while she hunted Hyun. "I accept your offer," she said finally. As they walked through the rain-soaked streets, Jinnah's ship sent one final alert before going into repair mode. It would be fully disabled for exactly 72 hours. She was now stranded on Earth with a human who showed kindness for no apparent reason. The concept was entirely foreign to her. But then again, everything about this mission was proving unexpected. Ta Min's house sat on the edge of town, a modest 2-story building surrounded by tall pine trees. He unlocked the front door and stepped aside to let Jinnah enter first. "It's not much, but it's home," he said, switching on the lights. Jinnah stepped inside cautiously, her eyes scanning every corner of the room. The space was cluttered but organized. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with texts on astronomy, physics, and something called philosophy. Strange objects sat on display, rocks of various colors, small mechanical devices, and framed images of stars and planets. "The spare bedroom is upstairs, second door on the right," Ta Min said as he hung up his wet jacket. "Bathroom is right next to it. Make yourself at home." Jinnah remained still, studying him. "What do you require as payment?" Ta Min looked confused. "Payment? Nothing. It's just a spare room that's sitting empty. All transactions require exchange," Jinnah stated flatly. "This is universal law." Ta Min smiled slightly. "Well, I don't know about universal, but around here, sometimes people just help each other out." He moved to the kitchen area. "Would you like some tea? You look cold." Jinnah didn't move. In her 20 years as a cosmic executioner, she had never encountered a species that gave without expectation. It must be a trick. Perhaps this human suspected her true nature. "I require no sustenance at this time," she said. Ta Min shrugged. "Suit yourself. I'll show you to your room." The spare bedroom was small but clean. A bed with blue covers sat against one wall. A desk and chair occupied another. A window overlooked the dark forest behind the house. "There are extra blankets in the closet if you get cold," Ta Min said. "Bathroom has towels. Feel free to use the shower." Jinnah nodded stiffly. "This is adequate." "Great. I'll be downstairs if you need anything." He paused at the door. "You know, I don't mean to pry, but you seem lost. If you're in some kind of trouble—" "I am not in trouble," Jinnah cut him off. "I merely require temporary shelter." Ta Min nodded. "Of course. Well, good night then." When he left, Jinnah immediately secured the door and checked her wrist device. The ship's repair cycle had begun, but it would be 3 full Earth days before she could access it again. She needed to maintain her cover until then. She examined the room more carefully. On the desk sat several books and a small framed image of Ta Min standing with an older human couple. Jinnah assumed these were his genetic contributors, his parents. Valfori rarely maintained contact with their birth families after training began. The concept seemed inefficient. Jinnah removed her armor, allowing it to retract into a small disc that she placed under her pillow. Beneath it, she wore a simple black bodysuit. She sat cross-legged on the bed and began her nightly meditation ritual. She needed to plan her next moves carefully. Her target, Hyun, was somewhere in this town. Tomorrow she would continue her search while learning more about human behaviors to improve her disguise. The next morning, Jinnah woke at exactly 5:00 a.m., as she did every day. She heard movement downstairs and cautiously went to investigate, keeping her hand near the concealed weapon at her hip. Ta-Min was in the kitchen, cooking something that smelled strange, but not unpleasant. "Good morning," he said cheerfully. "Sleep well." "Sleep was adequate," Jinnah replied. She watched him crack small oval objects into a pan. "What are you doing?" "Making breakfast. Eggs and toast. Would you like some?" Jinnah had studied Earth foods before her mission. Her body could process most human nutrients without issue. "Yes," she said simply. Ta-Min placed a plate in front of her a few minutes later. Jinnah examined the food carefully before taking a small bite. The taste was different from Valfori nutrition packets, more complex, not unpleasant. "So," Ta-Min said as he sat down with his own plate, "what brings you to our little town? We don't get many visitors, especially not in October." Jinnah had prepared for this question. "I am researching rare minerals. This area has interesting geological formations." "Really? I didn't know that. But then again, I spend more time looking up than down." He smiled. "I teach astronomy at the community college and run the observatory you saw last night." Jinnah nodded, filing this information away. "You study stars and planets, galaxies, everything up there." His face brightened. "Actually, we're tracking this strange object that appeared in Earth's orbit recently. Some kind of satellite, but no one has claimed responsibility for launching it." Jinnah froze. He was talking about her ship. "Perhaps it is space garbage," she suggested. "Maybe, but its movements were too controlled before it disappeared from our tracking systems last night." He took a bite of his food. "Anyway, if you're interested in local geology, there's a great museum in town with a whole collection of regional mineral samples." Jinnah saw an opportunity. "Is there someone in this town who would know about rare metals? Perhaps someone new who has special knowledge." "You mean like another geologist?" Ta-Min thought for a moment. "Well, there's Dr. Kim who just started at the college. He's teaching some advanced chemistry courses. Seems to know a lot about metal compounds." Jinnah's pulse quickened. Dr. Kim could be Hyun's Earth alias. Where would I find this Dr. Kim? "He'll be at the college today. I'm heading there for my morning class if you want a ride." "Yes," Jinnah said, perhaps too eagerly. "I would like that." As they drove through town in Ta-Min's small car, Jinnah noticed how he greeted almost everyone they passed. He seemed connected to these humans in ways she couldn't understand. Valthori valued strength and skill, not social bonds. "Why do you acknowledge so many people?" she asked. Ta-Min looked surprised by the question. "They're my neighbors, my community. That's what people do." "It seems inefficient." Ta-Min laughed. "Maybe, but it makes life more pleasant. Don't people greet each other where you're from?" Jinnah thought of the Valthori homeworld, where warriors barely acknowledged each other except in combat or formal settings. "No," she said simply. "They do not." The college campus was small compared to the vast learning centers on Jinnah's homeworld. Students walked between simple buildings, carrying books and talking in small groups. Jinnah watched them carefully, noting their casual interactions and frequent laughter. "The science building is this way," Ta-Min said, leading her across a grassy area. "Dr. Kim usually has office hours now." Jinnah followed, her senses alert. If Dr. Kim was indeed Hyun in disguise, she needed to be prepared. The fugitive was not a warrior, but he was intelligent and likely armed with Valthori technology. They entered a brick building and walked down a long hallway lined with doors. Ta-Min stopped at one marked Dr. Han Kim, Chemistry. "Here we are," he said, knocking lightly. The door opened, and Jinnah tensed. A human man stood there, shorter than Ta-Min with glasses and gray hair. His features were nothing like Hyun's, and Jinnah's scanner detected no disguise technology. "Professor Park," the man greeted Ta-Min. "What brings you to the chemistry department?" "Dr. Kim, this is Jinnah. She's interested in rare minerals and metals. I thought you might have some insights for her." Dr. Kim smiled at Jinnah. Certainly. Please come in. Jinnah spent 30 minutes listening to Dr. Kim discuss earth minerals. It was clear this man was fully human, not her target. When they left his office, she felt frustration building inside her. Did you get what you needed? Ta Min asked as they walked outside. No, Jinnah said flatly. He was not who I sought. Ta Min checked his watch. I have to teach a class now, but it's only an hour. You're welcome to join, or you could explore the campus. Jinnah considered her options. I will observe your teaching. Ta Min's classroom was filled with 20 young humans. They fell silent when Jinnah entered with him, many staring at her unusual appearance. We have a visitor today, Ta Min announced. This is Jinnah. She'll be observing our class. Jinnah sat in the back corner, watching as Ta Min began talking about something called exoplanets. He described worlds beyond this solar system that might support life. Jinnah almost laughed at how limited their knowledge was. Humans had identified a few thousand planets, while the Valthori Empire had cataloged millions. Yet, as the class continued, Jinnah found herself impressed by Ta Min's teaching. He asked questions that made the students think deeply. He encouraged them to imagine possibilities beyond what they knew. Most surprising was how he admitted when he didn't know an answer. That's an excellent question, Min, he said to one student. I'm not certain, actually. Let's research that together for next time. A Valthori instructor would never admit ignorance. It would be seen as weakness. After class, a group of students approached Ta Min with more questions. Jinnah noticed how patient he was with each one, giving them his full attention. Professor Park, one young female student said, I might have to miss next week's class. My mother is having surgery. Don't worry about the class, Jia Young, Ta Min replied. I'll make sure you get the notes. How is your mother doing? The doctors think it will be okay, but I'm scared. To Jinnah's surprise, Ta Min put his hand on the student's shoulder. That's perfectly natural. Let me know if you need anything, even if it's just someone to talk to. When the students finally left, Jinnah approached Ta Min. Why do you care about her mother's health? It does not affect your teaching. Ta Min looked surprised. Because Jia Young is my student, and she's worried. Her well-being matters to me. But she is not family or part of your combat unit. Combat unit. Ta Min laughed. You have interesting ways of describing things. He gathered his papers. Are you hungry? The cafeteria has decent food. Over lunch, Jinnah asked more questions about how humans lived. Each answer confused her further. You help others with no guarantee they will help you in return. Ta Min nodded. Generally, yes. We call it compassion, empathy. It seems like a weakness, Jinnah said. Many of our greatest strengths look like weaknesses at first, Ta Min replied. Caring for others creates communities, and communities accomplish more than individuals alone. After lunch, they walked across campus. Jinnah's tracker suddenly beeped softly. Her target was nearby. I need to check something, she told Ta Min, following the signal. It led to a small building with a sign reading Refugee Support Center. Jinnah entered cautiously, Ta Min following behind her. Inside, several people worked at desks helping others fill out papers. Jinnah's tracker pointed to a man in the corner. His back was turned, but she recognized Hyun immediately. He was helping a young human child read a book. That's the new volunteer coordinator, Ta Min said quietly. He started last month. Works with refugees from war zones, helping them settle here. Jinnah watched Hyun carefully. The traitor was supposed to be dangerous, selfish, a thief who stole Valthori secrets. Yet here he was, teaching a small human to read. His name is Sue, Ta Min continued. He's been amazing with the children. Jinnah's hand moved toward her hidden weapon, then stopped. Something felt wrong. This didn't match the briefing she had received. Why would someone help refugees? She asked. Because they need help, Ta Min said simply. Those children have lost everything. Homes, sometimes family. They need someone to care. Jinnah watched as Hyun, Su, high-fived the child after they completed a page. Both were smiling. "Is caring so important?" she asked quietly. Tai-min looked at her with curiosity. "It's what makes us human." That night, after they returned to Ta-min's house, Jinnah accessed the classified files on her target through her wrist device. What she read disturbed her. Hyun had not stolen weapons research as she'd been told. He had discovered the Empire's plans to cleanse several inhabited planets for resources. His crime was attempting to warn them. For the first time in her career, Jinnah questioned her mission. Jinnah sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the information displayed on her wrist device. The files she had accessed told a very different story about Hyun than her mission briefing. According to these records, Hyun had discovered plans for the Valfori Empire to destroy 3 inhabited planets. The species living there were considered primitive, but their worlds were rich in rare minerals. Hyun had tried to warn them. For this, he was labeled a traitor. Jinnah had executed many targets without question. The Empire's word was law. But now doubt crept into her mind like a shadow. A soft knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Jinnah, I made dinner if you're hungry," Tai-min called. She quickly shut down her device. "I will join you." Downstairs, Tai-min had prepared a meal that smelled rich and complex. They ate in silence for a few minutes before Tai-min spoke. "You seemed troubled after we visited the refugee center today." Jinnah looked up from her plate. "I am not troubled. I am thinking." "About what?" She chose her words carefully. "If you learned your leaders were doing something wrong, what would you do?" Ta-min considered this. "I'd try to stop them, I suppose, or at least not help them do it, even if it meant becoming an enemy of your own people." "Sometimes doing the right thing comes with a cost," Tai-min said, "but that doesn't make it any less right." Jinnah was about to respond when her wrist device vibrated urgently. A message appeared in Valfori script. Her blood turned cold as she read it. "Executioner Jinnah, your neural patterns show irregularity. Mission parameters compromised. Executioner Du-Yun dispatched to complete your mission and evaluate your loyalty. Arrival in 20 hours. They were sending another executioner. Du-Yun was the second most skilled warrior in the fleet. He would kill Hyun, and if he found Jinnah's loyalty wavering, he would kill her too. And likely any humans who had contact with either of them. "I must go," Jinnah said abruptly, standing up. "What's wrong?" Ta-min asked, concern in his voice. "Nothing that concerns you." She moved toward the stairs to gather her few belongings. Ta-min followed her. "Jinnah, I can tell something's wrong. Maybe I can help." Jinnah turned to face him. "You cannot help. You should leave this house. It is not safe." "Not safe? Are you in danger?" Jinnah hesitated. Telling him the truth would put him at risk, but not warning him might be worse. "Someone is coming. Someone dangerous. I must leave, and you should too." Tai-min stepped closer. "Who's coming? Is someone after you?" "Yes, and they will eliminate anyone who has helped me." Understanding dawned on Ta-min's face. "You're not really a geologist, are you?" Jinnah made a decision. She activated her wrist device, dropping the human disguise filter. Her skin returned to its natural gray-blue color, and the star-like dots in her eyes became more visible. Tai-min stepped back in shock. "You're not human. I am Valfori, a cosmic executioner sent to eliminate a fugitive hiding on your planet." To her surprise, Tai-min recovered quickly from his shock. "The volunteer coordinator. Su." Jinnah nodded. "His real name is Hyun. He is Valfori like me. And now someone is coming to kill both of you." "Yes, an executioner named Du-Yun. He is very dangerous." Tai-min ran his hand through his hair. Okay. We need a plan." "We?" Jinnah was confused. "This is not your problem." "You made it my problem when you told me innocent people might get hurt," Tai-min said firmly. "Including you. I am not innocent. I have killed many for the Empire." But you're questioning that now, aren't you? That's why they're sending someone after you. Jinnah was surprised by his insight. Yes, Hyun is not what I was told. The Empire lied. Tai Min nodded. Then we need to warn him and figure out how to stop this Du-Yun. Jinnah shook her head. You don't understand. Du-Yun is one of the most skilled warriors in the galaxy. Your weapons cannot harm him. Maybe we don't need weapons, Tai Min said thoughtfully. We need strategy. He moved to his desk and pulled out a map of the town. Tell me about Valfori technology. How will he track you? For the next hour, Jinnah explained Valfori tracking systems, weapons, and armor capabilities. Tai Min listened carefully, occasionally making notes. Your people rely heavily on neural implants and energy signatures, he said finally. What disrupts those? Strong electromagnetic fields can interfere with our systems, Jinnah admitted, and certain mineral compositions block our scanners. Tai Min smiled. I have an idea. The next morning, they found Hyun at the refugee center. When he saw Jinnah, he tried to run, but Jinnah caught him easily. I am not here to kill you, she said quietly. I know the truth about the 3 planets. Hyun's eyes widened. You've seen the files. Yes, and another executioner is coming. We need to work together. With Hyun's help, they prepared their trap. Tai Min's plan involved using equipment from the college's physics lab and the observatory to create a localized electromagnetic pulse. Meanwhile, Hyun modified Jinnah's armor to mask their energy signatures. This goes against everything I was trained to do, Jinnah said as they worked. Sometimes the strongest position is not the one you were trained to take, Tai Min replied. When Du-Yun's ship entered Earth's atmosphere that night, they were ready. Jinnah stood alone in the forest clearing where she had first landed. Du-Yun emerged from his ship, tall and imposing in full battle armor. Executioner Jinnah, you have failed in your mission. The mission was based on lies, Jinnah replied. Hyun is not a traitor. Your opinion is irrelevant. Stand aside or be eliminated with him. I cannot do that. Du-Yun activated his energy blade. Then you die first. He lunged forward, but Jinnah was ready. She dodged his attack and led him toward the trap. As they fought through the trees, Jinnah could see Tai Min and Hyun in position near the modified observatory equipment. Now, she shouted. Tai Min activated the device. A wave of electromagnetic energy pulsed through the clearing. Du-Yun stumbled as his neural implants and armor systems suddenly failed. Jinnah, protected by Hyun's modifications, moved in quickly to disarm him. How? Du-Yun gasped as Jinnah pinned him to the ground. How did humans defeat our technology? Jinnah looked up at Tai Min, who stood watching from the edge of the clearing. By teaching me that sometimes the strongest position is not domination, she answered. The morning sun cast long shadows across Tai Min's front porch, where Jinnah sat watching birds flutter between the pine trees. 3 months had passed since the night they had captured Du-Yun. So much had changed since then. Jinnah heard the front door open behind her. Tai Min stepped out carrying 2 steaming mugs of coffee. He handed one to Jinnah and sat beside her on the wooden bench. Beautiful morning, he said. Jinnah nodded. Earth has many beautiful mornings. They sat in comfortable silence, drinking their coffee. Jinnah still found the bitter taste strange but pleasant. Like many things on Earth, it had grown on her. I received a message from the council, Jinnah said finally. I received a message from the council, Jinnah said finally. Tai Min looked at her with concern. Good news or bad news? Good news. They have officially declared Earth a protected planet. No Valfori ships will be allowed to enter your solar system without permission from both governments. Tai Min smiled. So your report worked. After capturing Du-Yun, Jinnah had made a difficult choice. Rather than killing him, they had used his ship to send a detailed message to the Valfori High Council. Jinnah had included all the evidence of the Empire's planned attacks on innocent planets, as well as data about human culture, technology, and potential. My report was just part of it, Jinnah said. Hyun's testimony was more important, and the council was impressed by how easily humans disabled our advanced technology. They realized you would make dangerous enemies but valuable allies. And what about Du-yun? Will they punish him for failing his mission? Jinnah shook her head. The council has assigned him to the outer colonies. It is not a punishment exactly, but he will have time to consider his loyalty to the Empire versus his loyalty to justice. Ta-min sipped his coffee. And what about you? Will you return to being an executioner? Jinnah looked down at her hands. Once, they had known only how to destroy. Now, they had helped build something new. No, I have requested a new assignment as Earth's first diplomatic liaison. There is much our peoples could learn from each other. So you're staying. Ta-min tried to hide the hope in his voice, but Jinnah had learned to read human emotions well over the past months. Yes, if that is acceptable to you. Ta-min's smile was answer enough. Later that day, they visited Hyun at his new apartment. After the truth about his actions had been revealed to the council, his status as a fugitive had been removed. Now he worked officially as a cultural advisor, helping prepare for the first public contact between humans and Valfori. The Earth governments are still arguing about how to announce our existence to the general public, Hyun said as he served them tea. They fear panic. Humans are adaptable, Jinnah replied. They will adjust to the knowledge that they are not alone in the universe. Like you adjusted to humans? Hyun asked with a knowing smile. Jinnah nodded. I came here believing humans were weak. Now I understand that what we saw as weakness is actually strength. Your empathy, your creativity, your willingness to help others without expecting anything in return. These things seemed foolish to me once. And now? Ta-min asked. Now I see that the Valfori way is not the only way, perhaps not even the best way. After leaving Hyun's apartment, Jinnah and Ta-min walked through the town park. Children played on colorful equipment while parents watched nearby. An old couple fed birds by a small pond. A group of teenagers played music under a tree. I still don't understand how your species accomplished so much without natural advantages, Jinnah said. The Valfori evolved with superior strength, speed, and natural armor. Yet humans went from simple tools to space exploration in a fraction of the time it took us. Maybe because we had to work together to survive, Ta-min suggested. When you're not naturally strong, you learn to combine your strengths with others. Jinnah considered this. The Valfori value individual power above all else. We compete more than we cooperate. And look which approach led to faster progress. They stopped at the edge of the pond. Jinnah's reflection looked back at her, still Valfori, but somehow changed. Her posture was more relaxed. Her eyes, once cold and calculating, now showed curiosity and warmth. The first official delegation from Valfori will arrive next month, Jinnah said. They will expect me to have prepared humans for contact. Are you worried? Jinnah shook her head. No, both sides want peace, and I believe I can help them understand each other. As they walked back toward home, Jinnah now thought of Ta-min's house as home. She reflected on how completely her life had changed. She had arrived on Earth as a hunter, convinced of her superiority and the rightness of her mission. She had been prepared to kill without question. Now she was building bridges instead of destroying them. She was learning to value connection over domination, cooperation over control. That evening, as stars appeared in the sky, Jinnah and Ta-min sat on the porch again. Jinnah pointed out the star system where her home planet orbited. Do you miss it? Ta-min asked. Sometimes, Jinnah admitted, but I have found something here that I never had there. What's that? Jinnah thought about how to explain it. In the Valfori language, there was no word for what she had found on Earth. The closest translation would be belonging, or perhaps peace. A place where strength is not measured by how many you can defeat, she said finally, but by how many you can help. Ta-min took her hand, his warm fingers intertwining with her cool ones. Jinnah no longer pulled away from such contact. Instead, she welcomed it. "The strongest warrior I've ever met," Tai Min said softly, "is the one who learned when not to fight." Jinnah smiled. Once she would have seen such words as an insult. Now she recognized them as the highest compliment she had ever received.